here's what I know. Firefighters, Dallas Fire Rescue got a report of a carbon monoxide leak. When they got out there, there was an explosion. 4 firefighters have been injured. From what I gather, some of them have significant injuries. They've been taken to Parkland Hospital. This is going to be a gas explosion. My sources are saying this was a gas explosion. Now, again, it's important to note we don't know, is this going to be on the on the apartment side, or is it going to be on the side of the gas company? There's a lot of things we don't know yet. And I just want to say that our hearts and prayers, go out to these firefighters, and prayers that they survive their injuries.
Okay, Tanya, you cut out on me. I was getting some cues from our producer there. Any other information that you can add just from those images for the folks maybe that's just joining us, from what you saw and why you're gathering that this may be an explosion?
Right. Did you hear what I said about the firefighters being injured? I mean, I don't know how much what you missed of what I said.
No, ma'am, I didn't hear that about the firefighters.
Oh, well, let me start over. Okay, so Dallas Fire Rescue was called out this morning to a report of a carbon monoxide leak. When the fire department got out there, there was an explosion. 4 firefighters have been injured. They have been taken to Parkland Hospital. Some of them have significant injuries. I don't yet know the total extent, but this is a very serious situation with the firefighters that have been hurt. And I am told by my sources that this is a gas explosion. And now at this point, we don't know if the gas explosion is going to be something that was caused by something inside in one of the apartments, or if it's going to be on the gas company's side. But again, I also want to say that we, our hearts and prayers are with the firefighters who've been injured responding to this situation.
Tanya Iser with the latest information there, saying 4 firefighters injured in this situation at Parkland Hospital. Now, of course, we'll continue to monitor the latest, and our hearts, thoughts, and prayers are certainly going out to those injured firefighters. Tanya, thank you. Well, here in North Texas, a teen is accused. Back to that breaking news out of southern Dallas County. Firefighters battling a fire at an apartment complex out there. Our Alex Rozier is live on the scene. And Alex, just in the last few minutes, heard some disturbing news from Tanya Iser. 4 firefighters injured in this situation. What more can you add?
Yeah, I think that number is expected to grow because I've been hearing from people nearby that spoke of the injuries that they witnessed to residents and neighbors. I want to give you a look behind me. We're at the intersection of Highland Hills and Bonneview. You can see a number of emergency responders from the Dallas Fire Department and the Dallas Police Department that are here. I want to swing you around here, and I want to ask Lakeisha a question, if that's okay. Lakeisha had spoke with us earlier. You were right by this when it all happened. Can you tell me what happened and what your experience was like?
I was standing outside cleaning up. Next thing I know, they tried to go in there to, the first responders tried to go into the apartment. When they tried to go in there, next thing I know, it blew up. It blew up and threw me back up a stairway, and it was people just laying under the boards and stuff. They were just laying there. One man, it was bloody all up. One man was trying to climb over the thing. He was bloody up, had burnt marks and stuff on him. I don't know what happened. They said it was a gas leak, so I really don't know.
And you can see Lakeisha's got some cuts here from being thrown from this explosion. Describe for me the scene that you witnessed after this apartment complex in these units blew up.
It was terrifying. It was terrifying. That was the scariest moment I ever seen in my life. It's something I don't want to be in. It's something I don't want nobody to be in.
How many people were injured from what you were able to witness in your own view?
Yeah. I saw two men that I really saw that was really hurt, bad. And that's all I seen. They was rushing, trying to get people out the apartments, telling people to leave. It was just too much going on. It was just too much. It was just too much excitement. It was just too fast for me.
Well, we're so glad you're safe, and take care of yourself, Lakeisha. Thank you so much for your time. Let's go back and swing you around here. Again, this is the scene at Highland Hills and Bonneview, as expected, with the possible gas concern still in the area. DPD and the fire department keeping the media at a safe distance as they investigate this scene. One thing of note, Lakeisha had noted to me that neighbors had expressed some concern about gas in previous days, and now we have this explosion. As Tanya Iser reported, at least 4 firefighters have been injured, and from what you're hearing from her, and with scrapes on her body, she's saying that several residents and people nearby were injured too. Tashara, we'll send it back to you.
Hey, Alex, I just want to ask you a quick question here. Have you heard from anyone else other than Lakeisha down there on the ground from where you are?
Yeah, I want to swing Matt around here. This is Estelle Village. It's about a block, is what I'm told, from the apartment that had the explosion. People that lived in this complex, Tashara, they heard a loud boom as well. It said that they shook their apartment complex a block away, and then the scene that ensued was some of this, what you're looking at right here, and the large emergency response. And it was a quickly coordinated effort, both between the Dallas Police Department and the fire department. But yes, neighbors here a block away felt it so much that their apartment shook too. And I'm expecting, as we spend a little more time here, that we're going to hear more stories from people nearby.
Alex Rozier on the scene for us. Alex, thank you. If we can just go ahead and take that video, I want to give folks a recap of what all we know right now. Again, this happened at 5700 Highland Hills Drive. This is near Bonneview and Simpson Stewart Roads. This isn't far from Paul Quinn College. If you are familiar with this area in parts of southern Dallas County, an apartment building with at least 2 full units collapsed. We had Tanya Iser, our investigative reporter, speaking with us earlier. She says she received reports of a carbon monoxide leak, at least that's what her sources are telling her. 4 firefighters injured, taken to Parkland Hospital. She also mentioned when we spoke to her early on, this is going to be a gas explosion, again, from what her sources are telling her. We have not heard about any civilians being injured at this point. You did just hear the young woman that was speaking there with our Alex Rozier, explaining what she witnessed out there with firefighters. A couple of people injured from what she could see. Again, that's just from witnesses on the scene. And of course, this is a breaking news situation. But one of the key pieces of information that we have learned here, 4 firefighters injured. All 4 of those injured firefighters have been taken to Parkland Hospital. From Alex Rozier there on the ground, he said that some of the neighbors, some of the people that live at that apartment complex had received reports of a carbon monoxide leak. So, of course, we are still following this story, waiting to confirm this information. But we do have a crew on the ground, and you can expect that we're going to have much more on this here on air as well as on WFAA.com. We'll be right back, guys. Exactly what the images are telling you and just really the latest information that you've learned.
Well, again, what we know is that, Dallas Fire Rescue was called out there to a report of a carbon monoxide leak. When firefighters arrived on scene, there was an explosion. My sources are telling me this is a gas explosion, and 4 firefighters have been injured. They've been taken to Parkland Hospital. I am told that some of the injuries are very significant. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with these firefighters. Now, in terms of, let me jump over and talk about the investigation. In terms of what's going to be happening, we can expect arson investigators from Dallas Fire Rescue are going to be on scene. They're going to be carefully sifting through and trying to determine, where was the gas explosion? Was this a result of a leak inside one of the apartments? Was it a leak on the Atmos side? And then we can expect, if it hasn't already occurred, inspectors from the Texas Railroad Commission will be arriving on scene as a result of the explosions we had a few years ago. There was a change in state law that requires a gas company, whenever there's an explosion, regardless of the whether it's on the homeowner side or on the gas company side, that they have to come out, they have to look at it. And so they should be arriving on scene. But, obviously the images we're seeing, this was a very, very powerful explosion.
Tanya, anything else you can just add to this conversation? Again, we got a lot of folks that are joining us that are just hearing about exactly what's going down out there. We're showing images right now of at least 2 buildings there. Can you explain why all of this yields toward an explosion?
Well, I've spoken to my sources inside Dallas Fire Rescue, and that is what they are looking at this as a gas explosion. And again, just when you look at it, I mean, this looks like a gas explosion. It has all the hallmarks. I mean, oftentimes when there's a gas explosion, it's almost like a flash fire. It explodes and then I don't want to say it knocks itself out, but it's different than just a regular fire. And you can just see it didn't just, keep going. It's like it just boom, and then it had done its damage. And I'll be also very interested to hear in the coming days what people heard. What people smelled. Had they been smelling gas, where were they smelling gas? And again, in the Northwest Dallas explosions, and this is where I really kind of learned a lot about natural gas explosions. The gas explosions proved to be a leak in a pipeline behind the houses. So we'll be very interested to see where they find this leak was, and was it inside.
And Tanya, I hate to jump in here, but I got a heart out and I want to make sure that I wrap this thing up. And we did just learn some new information. 4 firefighters, as you mentioned, taken to the hospital. Also 2 civilians injured in this situation. Of course, we're waiting to learn more information. This fire happening near Bonneview Road and Simpson Stewart Road. As we learn more information, we'll of course update you on air. We'll also update you on WFAA.com. Download our app for the latest information. You guys want to get back to that breaking news that we've been monitoring since the top of our 11 o'clock hour. Okay, WFAA chopper rate in the air for us this afternoon. An apartment building in southern Dallas with massive plumes of smoke early on. Of course, that has been put out. 2 units fully involved there, 5,702 buildings, fully involved there. 5700 Highland Hills Drive is where this occurred at. This is near Bonneview and Simpson Stewart Roads. If you are familiar with this area, this isn't far from Paul Quinn College. Several units on the scene when this first was reported. I want to go ahead and bring in Tanya Iser here this morning just to kind of provide some more context and the latest on what you know. 4 firefighters hurt in this explosion. We heard 2 civilians. What else can you add?
Again, what we're being told is that the fire department was called out there to the report of a carbon monoxide leak. And I just have to say, carbon monoxide leaks, this is a common routine call that firefighters respond to every single day all over the city. So it's not like this would be an unusual call, but it also shows that even though it's not an unusual call, you have to be really careful and that really bad things can happen. And so when they got out there, there was a gas explosion and 4 firefighters were injured. And I'm being told that at least 2 of them are in a pretty serious condition. And, my sources are telling me this is a gas explosion, and we can expect that arson investigators are on scene right now. They are trying to determine the ignition source. Is this going to be an appliance inside an apartment unit, a stove, a water heater, anything like that? Or is it going to be on Atmos's side? Is it going to be a leak in one of the gas pipelines? And because of changes in state law that occurred a couple of years ago, the Texas Railroad Commission, I would expect them to be on scene very quickly. And they'll be working with the fire department on this investigation.
Tanya, you may have received this as well. I'm reading some notes here that we got from Dallas Fire Rescue. They say when firefighters arrived, the smell of gas was noticeable around an apartment building near the gate entrance. What do you take away from hearing a statement like that?
That the explosion was near the gate entrance?
The smell of gas was noticed around an apartment building near the gate entrance.
Well, obviously that's a further indicator that this is going to be a natural gas situation. I would be, again, very, very interested to know how long were people smelling gas? Was this had they been smelling it for several days? Where were they smelling it? And it's also really important to note that natural gas can go a long way. A leak can be one place, and then that gas flows along and can end up somewhere else, actually causing the explosion. And as I told you earlier, that's why I have a carbon monoxide detector, a natural gas detector here in my house, just because even though I don't have natural gas, that doesn't mean it couldn't come into my house and cause an explosion. And we've actually seen that occur in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know at one point when I was covering stories back in East Texas, they were even giving out carbon monoxide detectors for free so that people can be able to monitor this kind of stuff. So certainly some important information there. Tanya, I'm going to go ahead and try to wrap this up because I want to make sure that I can give folks an overview of what's going on. And I think we're going to call you back in here in just a bit. So for those of you who are just joining us, again, this is a breaking news situation. This is in southern Dallas, an apartment building with at least 2 full units collapsed. The building is charged. Now, when our chopper first got out there, arrived on the scene, there was a large plume of smoke. That a fire, again, as you're watching here, these images on your screen, appears to be under control. Several units with windows blown out due to this apartment fire. Debris scattered all over the immediate area and including on top of the parking awning there. Again, you can see a large fire response as well in these images. This is near Bonneview Road and Simpson Stewart Road. This is in southern Dallas. 4 firefighters hurt in that explosion, including civilians. 2 civilians, pardon me. Want to go ahead and bring in Alex Rozier, who has been on the ground actually talking to individuals out there. I know we heard from Lakeisha early on, someone who was nearby when this whole situation unfolded. Alex, what else can you tell us from what you learned out there on the scene?
Yeah, Tashara, let's bring you up to speed with where we are right now. We're at the intersection of Bonneview and Highland Hills. I want to give you a look behind us. You can see the ambulance that is turning on here onto Bonneview. A number of emergency responders, including fire trucks, and you have the Dallas Police Department, a very coordinated effort between these 2 agencies. I want to bring in Abdul Kareem. He wasn't there for the actual explosion, but you do live at that apartment complex. Tell me a little bit about what you witnessed when you arrived back home.
Well, it's totally gone, man. Gas explosions is no joke, and I'm just grateful. I mean, I only left like 30 minutes prior to the explosion, so I thank God for sparing my life. Because if I was been in the unit, I'd been on the gurney right now. Basically, everything is gone. From my understanding, there's a few firefighters that have gotten injured, and maybe I'm on the left side of the explosion to the right of me is totally gone. So if anybody was in the apartment unit, they're not alive.
And we saw a number of people who talked about several injuries from perhaps residents or people that were nearby at the time.
Sure.
One thing you brought out earlier, and Tanya Iser, our investigative reporter, had noted the question of, were you smelling gas previously? And you were.
Yes, yeah. I went to bed. I go to bed early. I went to bed about 9. I was smelling gas. I woke up at midnight smelling gas, 3 a.m., 5 a.m. So I wish I'd have called it in. You know, I thought maybe it was just a unit, one of the neighbors turning on the furnace, you know, because it was a little cool. And most time when you switch from AC to heat, you know, you smell a little gas. But I guess it was strong enough, I should have called it in. So I don't know if I could have saved anything, but I'm going to regret that for a long time that I didn't call it in.
And how long have you lived at this complex?
I've been there 3 years now.
Familiarize our viewers a little bit with this portion of Dallas and tell us where we're nearby. I know Paul Quinn College and up here.
Sure. This is, you know, South Oak Cliff, probably, you know, I would consider the moderate income area, you know. I'm in apartments, they have nicknames, the brown, the white, the pinks, and those kind of things, but I'm a little older than that nomenclature, but it's a rough neighborhood, but I choose to live here because I always try to give back, you know.
Well, we are so glad that you are safe, and,
Yeah.
and we sure appreciate your time today.
Sure.
And as he mentioned, he was not there at the time of the explosion, but arrived shortly after. Again, give you a live look behind us. I want to tell you about right now that we're about a block from where this happened, and I've been talking to neighbors who live at the apartment complex behind me. Matt, if we can swing you around at Estelle Village, and I did speak with one person who lives at Estelle Village who was at this complex at the time of the explosion, and this is what she heard.
I just had a really big explosion, and I was at my mom's house, and it shook her apartment a little bit, and we were kind of like a little worried. So we all just ran outside to really just kind of see what was really going on.
And what did you see?
A whole bunch of police cars. I seen a whole bunch of smoke, a whole bunch of people running towards this way. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on. There's a lot of cops, ambulance, fire department. There are actually people here on the street right now who have actually been running away from the apartment complex. So they're right here on the main road of Bonneview right here.
And as you talk to neighbors who live nearby, you will hear several stories just like that. So people shaken as much as a block away and perhaps more from this explosion that happened an hour to 2 ago. So we're going to continue to get stories from the scene, hear from witnesses, people nearby, as a large police presence and fire department presence remain on scene as an investigation gets underway.
Alex, thank you. Want to go ahead and bring in Tanya Iser because, Tanya, I don't know if you actually heard the gentleman who Alex Rozier just spoke with who said he was smelling gas overnight and he said he wished he had called it in. He smelled a very strong odor. What do you make from hearing something like that come from individuals? Because you mentioned you wonder what people are going to be saying on the ground, right? And so to hear him say that, what do you make from that?
It tells me that people were smelling natural gas. And this is one of the reasons why you have to take the smell of natural gas so seriously. It may seem routine, it may not seem like a big deal, but whenever you smell natural gas, you need to call it in, because if it reaches an ignition source, it can kill somebody. And also, you know, if you, and it's really important to note that if you smell natural gas for long enough, your senses will acclimate and you will stop smelling it. And they call that odor fade. So I would encourage people, if you're smelling natural gas, call Atmos, call it in, call the fire department, and because this is the kind of tragedies that can occur, you know, and this is a very sad situation, what we see, you know, on the ground there in Dallas.
I want to get back to the investigation. You obviously have a lot of expertise following your reporting on some situations in North Dallas. What can we expect in the next hours and days to come following this?
Obviously, arson investigators, they are on scene. They're going to be trying to determine the ignition source. Is it going to be a stove? Is it going to be a water heater? Is the leak going to be in one of the apartments? Is it going to be in a line that's on the Atmos side? And those are the things that we can expect them to be looking at. Again, the Texas Railroad Commission will be dispatching investigators, and if they're not already on scene, they will be on scene soon. And I would expect that in maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, that we'll start to get more information about where they think the leak occurred and on which side of the system was it?
And Tanya, again, you've done a lot of stories on this type of stuff. From these images that we're seeing from HD Chopper 8, for folks that, again, are just joining us, what can you make of these images and seeing those buildings collapse there?
Well, this tells me it was a powerful explosion. I mean, and we heard that from, I mean, I don't have to say that. We heard that from the people that witnessed and heard it. I mean, people who were in another apartment complex a block away could feel this explosion. So obviously this was an explosion of great magnitude. And I really hope and pray that these apartment units that were damaged, that nobody was inside them, because if they were probably significantly hurt.
Tanya Eyser, our investigative reporter. Of course, we're going to continue following this story. Tanya, thank you. Want to give you guys just a recap again from the information that we've gotten from Dallas Fire Rescue. They say they were assigned a 911 call for a natural gas leak at an apartment complex. This is 5726 Highland Hills Road. This is in southern Dallas. When they got there, they smelled the gas. It was noticeable around that apartment building near the gate entrance. At some point during the course of investigating the odor, trying to figure out what was going on out there, an explosion occurred that caused a partial collapse of that two-story apartment building that you are looking at there on your screen. 4 firefighters and 2 civilians were injured in that explosion, as far as we can tell right now. All of those individuals were taken to a local hospital for evaluation for a variety of injuries. I want to go back to Alex Rozier, who is on the ground for us. Alex, I'm hearing you may have some additional information for us.
Yeah, Tashara, we just continue to follow this story out here, and you can see what large police presence and fire department presence remain. Again, they have us staged about a block away plus as there continues to be a gas concern here, and investigators are doing their work at the scene. But we have been talking to a number of people in the hours since we arrived. I want to see what truck this is. Dallas Fire is bringing in one of their bigger units here at the intersection. But yeah, as we've been here, we've been hearing stories from people nearby, and I believe we have a fire department official maybe coming up to brief us perhaps on this. But let me bring you back up to speed here. So we arrived about an hour ago. We initially talked to neighbors who were about a block away, and they told us that their apartment and different units at this apartment complex felt the shake and they heard the boom of an explosion. And as the hour has progressed, we've been talking to a number of people who live at the actual apartment complex, and they described a very chaotic, a very dangerous scene with several people. We don't have a number of how many people are injured. Several residents and people who were nearby that sustained injuries. And then, as our Tanya Eyser reported, there are at least 4 firefighters who are injured as well. Dallas Fire and the police department have a coordinated effort here. You can see the vehicles. We are awaiting an update from the scene, and hopefully we will be able to bring you some more specifics on what the fire department has experienced and what who they've transported in just a few minutes. Tashara.
Thank you. Just want to confirm some of that information Alex mentioned to you. Of course, 4 firefighters taken to the hospital hurt in that explosion, and information from Dallas Fire Rescue also mentions 2 civilians were also injured in the explosion. Of course, we'll learn more as this situation continues to unfold. This is near Bonneview Road and Simpson Stewart Road. This is in southern Dallas. An apartment building there, you can see it on your screen, exploded early on today. Firefighters there on the scene will, of course, continue to follow the updates. We'll be right back in just a little bit. All right, you guys, want to get back to that breaking news that we've been following in southern Dallas County, southern Dallas, that is. Firefighters on the scene there of an apartment fire. This is near Bonneview Road and Simpson Stewart Road. Looks like we're going to get an update now from Jason Evans of Dallas Fire.
5726. See if he can get his mic. You need to get your mic in? Okay.
Again, as Tashara noted, this is Jason Evans with the fire department.
All right. Jason Evans, Dallas Fire Rescue. JASON EVANS, Dallas Fire Rescue Public Information Officer. So today, right before 10:30, our firefighters were dispatched to a 911 call for a natural gas odor or leak. When we arrived, the location was at the an apartment complex at the 5700 block of Highland Hills Drive. When our firefighters arrived, they went to investigate an apartment building near the entry gate of the complex, where there was a strong smell of gas odor. At some point during the course of the investigation, an explosion took place. Unfortunately, there were 4 firefighters within proximity of the explosion when it occurred. All 4 of them were injured and have been taken to the hospital. In addition to those 4 firefighters, there were 3 civilians who were also injured. From what I've come to understand, everyone, firefighters and civilians included, were all taken to Parkland Hospital. 2 of our firefighters are told to be in critical condition. The other 2 are stable, and the 3 civilians as well are stable. Right now, we are just in the process of working with our investigators. It's going to be an investigation that involves a number of local, state, and federal agencies to help determine exactly what caused the explosion. Right now, our investigators are launching drones to try to get a bird's eye view of the structure itself, determine its integrity, the extent of the damage, and exactly what course of action is going to be taken going forward. I'll take any questions if anyone.
The current status, I'm sorry, in terms of atmosphere and any more leakage of gas or any concerns of any buildings right now, to your knowledge?
I do not have that information right now. Atmos does have its technicians on location assessing the situation, conducting their part of the investigation, but as far as any detail related to that, I would not have that.
Jason, do you know if there was any other gas concern expressed earlier? We've heard from neighbors who said they smelt it overnight, but perhaps did not call it in. Was this the first time you were out at this property today?
Today, this is the first, well, you know what, I can't confirm that this is the first time we've come out. However, we are aware of what residents are reporting, that there was, after we got here, that there was a gas smell that originated as early as last night. That seemed to have taken place after an incident that the police department responded to. However, I have no detail on what that response was all about, other than to say, according to neighbors, that smell of gas did originate at that point in time.
Jason, can you talk about the injuries, sir, to at least to the firefighters? What kind of injuries are we talking about? Glass or debris, or were they trapped somewhere?
You know, that's a good question. I don't have that much detail to provide you at this point in time. And to be perfectly honest with you, I wouldn't be able to provide you that much detail. We can only assume at this point that the injuries are on a variety of levels. When you deal with an explosion that caused that much damage to a 2-story apartment building, you can only begin to imagine exactly what kind of impact it could have on a human body, much less one that's that close to it when it takes place.
And we're obviously a distance from this apartment. You were down at the scene. What did you witness with your eyes? What does this look like visually?
When I arrived at the scene, everything was pretty much calmed down, and the incident itself is kind of on the downhill side as far as our emergency response is concerned. The westernmost end of the building suffered significant damage. There does appear to be charring in some of the areas that indicate, in addition to the explosion, that there was flame that took place, and enough of it to cause charring to some of the wood members of the building itself. But the damage looks pretty significant, and officially we cannot imagine that there'd be anything to salvage as it relates to that building going forward.
Is there any concern that anyone's still inside?
Right now, we're still looking into that. I have not spoken with anyone who can confirm that everyone is out or not. That's just not a detail that I have at this point.
Jason, do you have a number as to how many units were destroyed or damaged?
Command, go ahead.
Not at this point. I don't have that.
Secondary.
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Jeez. All right. Sorry about that.
The three that were injured, what kind of condition are they in?
I'm told that the 3 civilians who were transported are all in stable condition, as well as 2 of the firefighters. Unfortunately, the other 2 firefighters were listed critical.
Is there fear that there's anybody left on scene that has been injured or may have deceased?
We do not know at this point. However, the damage to the building is pretty extensive. I don't believe that anyone's been able to get inside to make a thorough enough investigation to confirm that everyone's out, but that's still something that we're looking into.
The civilians, all adults? Are they all adults?
I don't know. I don't have the information on the civilians to confirm that much.
Jason, some residents said they had cuts and things like that. We've seen them even from just around here. How many do you know have suffered minor injuries or that have been treated for minor injuries here?
Unfortunately, I don't have any detail related to minor injuries. I can imagine with an explosion of that magnitude that there were probably people outside of the 3 who we transported that maybe suffered some minor injuries. There's debris all the way across the street and outside the fence from where the apartment building itself is. So I don't have a number for you in that regard to answer your question.
Do those firefighters in the house, they live in that apartment complex, they live inside those apartments?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do they live inside of those apartments?
The individuals who were I cannot tell you if they actually live there. All I can tell you is that they were there when it took place.
If it continues that we have no fatalities here, do you find that to be incredibly fortunate given the damage that there is there?
Yes, it would indeed. As I said before, the damage is extensive. The collapse itself is extensive, and just to be able to look at it and know what it possibly originated from, that kind of percussion, if anyone was inside that building, we'd be extremely lucky to get past this incident with the injuries that we've detailed here.
Jason, that was over there, Jason, was telling us that she saw bodies flying when there was this explosion. Now, maybe it's not accurate, but is there still some search going on such that maybe there's more to this than we have?
Well, right now, the entire situation is still fluid. I mean, the structure itself is not very sound. That being the case, investigators have not had a chance to do an interior thorough investigation, and I honestly cannot tell you whether that would actually take place today, just for the safety of the first responders.
Transported 4 firefighters.
7 total, 4 firefighters, 3 civilians.
Your 4 firefighters, are they all men? Are they all from the same station? And also, can you just please describe, you're saying that they were investigating. What does that mean, sir? Were they in a unit when it exploded? I mean, can you just kind of explain what you mean by that?
No, I honestly have no information on the individuals themselves. We have that information. It's just not information that I gathered prior to coming over here to speak with you. As far as where they're from, that wouldn't necessarily be information we disclosed at this point in time. Forgive me. Can you repeat what you asked?
What were they doing before the explosion?
Yeah, the information I have right now is very general, just as far as them investigating. Typically when we go out to a gas leak, it's just a matter of having our monitors, kind of going around the area. If we find any areas that have a high concentration, we may go inside of a location. But as far as what the investigation consisted of today, up to the point of the explosion, I don't have that.
Jason, a number of people are watching this broadcast live, and some neighbors told me that they smelled gas as much as 12 hours before this explosion. How important is it for people to call if they smell gas in any part of this region?
Oh, that's a very good question. It's extremely important that if you smell gas, to call 911. We have the equipment, we have the personnel, and we can notify the people who know about it more than we do to come and investigate the situation. Again, we've heard from witnesses that the smell of gas was around as recently as last night. That was following an incident that took place that the police department had responded to. Of course, I don't have any detail related to the incident itself. but that's about how far back that smell goes, as far as I know.
Jason, have they evacuated anybody? How far away this explosion can be felt? I know some homes back there were saying that they couldn't be like, do you have any idea?
I do not. I haven't spoken with anybody who actually, explained where they were when they felt it or if they felt it. The best description I can give you.
You guys, you have been listening to Jason Evans with Dallas Fire Rescue, providing us with an update on that explosion out in southern Dallas, telling us the incident happened just before 10:30 this morning. Reports of a gas leak or odor. They went to investigate the situation. That's when the explosion happened. What we know now, for firefighters, again, all injured in this situation, 3 civilians as well. They've all been taken to Parkland Hospital. 2 of those firefighters in critical condition, 2 stable. The 3 civilians also stable at this point. They're going to be working with investigators to get the latest information. Of course, we'll stay on top of this. WFAA.com for all those updates.
I've not had a chance to talk to Atmos. It's a little premature. I don't know the exact cause yet of the explosion. Certainly, if it is a gas leak, that's something that we need to be very, very serious about looking into and understanding why that happened. But it's a bit premature to talk about the cause.
They did have an incident here last night, according to people around, that there was some kind of shooting that took place, and that apparently some of these shots might have gone into an apartment. At that point in time, the gas started to, they said they smelled gas.
You gotta put your arm down there.
Have you been informed or brought up to date on this whole incident and how this whole thing might have occurred?
I'm going to leave that to the police department to speak to. They are on site here. They're setting up their command post. I just spoke with Chief Garcia, and so I think they would be better able to speak to the incident you're referring to. I'm aware of it, but I'm not sure of the details or how it relates, if at all, to the situation that we're here talking about today with respect to this explosion.
Mayor, this isn't the first time this has happened in our city. What can you tell people about how, if anybody's responsible, if they'll be held responsible?
Again, I think I hate to keep saying it's premature, but it really is, in terms of we don't know how similar, if at all, this situation is to the previous situations in terms of what caused this explosion, which has turned into obviously a fire. So I'm not going to speculate on that, but again, we're going to take very seriously ascertaining the cause of this and getting to the bottom of that, and then making sure it doesn't happen again. We're very fortunate so far. Like I said, we don't think there are any fatalities, and so we're taking it very seriously.
Mayor, what's your message to residents here, and what, if anything, is the city going to be doing to those displaced?
We're going to do everything we possibly can to make sure anyone who needs shelter, who needs food, who needs water, needs anything, gets it. So we're going to be working with our partners at the Red Cross, which is what we typically do in these situations, to make sure everybody's taken care of. At this point, we still don't even have a handle on how many units are affected, because we can't really safely have our firefighters access the site. So once we get a handle on exactly how many people are affected, we'll be making sure that everybody gets taken care of, has a place to stay, has something to eat.
Mayor, have you heard from or spoken with the apartment building owner? Or
no, sir. No, I've not.
Thank you.
Big boss man, I'm smashed the top. I know you.
Everybody knows you.